Well, Hanukkah starts tomorrow night,
Hmm.
and so in honor of Hanukkah, let's have a shiur dedicated to Hanukkah. And I have built it around one of the prayers of Hanukkah, which I cannot find now, but is somewhere. So let's just find it. Prayer of Hanukkah, of course, is the special edition of, oh, what do we do now? The special edition of the, where is she? There we are. Okay, there. Okay, it'll be with you in a moment. But that's the special edition of the Al Hanissim prayer, which we add in the Amidah. Every time we have a service, Shachris, Mincha, Maariv, and Shabbos, also during Musaf, and it's added in the brocha of Modim Anachnu Lach. What's that brocha? It's a brocha that is a brocha of acknowledgement, of thanks, of acknowledging God's kindness. We say in the Amidah, we thank you for life, and we thank Hashem for miracles he performs every single day. And at that point, we interject with the Al Hanissim and also for the miracles. We'll have a look at that prayer. It's also said during benching. And where is it said during benching? In the bracha of a similar theme. The second bracha of the benching is Nodelecha. We acknowledge, we give thanks to Hashem. We appreciate the kindness that Hashem does. Nodelecha Hashem Elokeinu. That we say, and so that bracha is clearly a bracha of acknowledgement for the miracle performed, and so it's added in the blessings in the appropriate places, both in the Amidah as well as in the benching, grace after meals, at the point where we actually do acknowledge. In fact, according to some versions of the prayer, we don't begin Al Hanissim, we actually put the conjunction Ve Al Hanissim, because the host prayer, so to speak, already is a prayer of thanksgiving. And then we add, in addition to everything we always thank Hashem for, Ve Al Hanissim, also for the miracle. So this is the tefillah of Al Hanissim. But let's give it to you in something easier to read and also something which is in English here. So we thank you. Also, we hear the Vav is missing for the miracles, the redemption, the mighty deeds, deliverances, and for the wars that you performed for our fathers in those days at this season. Ancient prayer that is already brought down in the Talmud, in the tractate called Masechet Sofrim, and there is a suggestion that Yochanan himself composed this prayer. I think there will be Yochanan one generation down, and there's a difficulty. The sources say that there's 124 words in the prayer, which corresponds to Yochanan. I counted more, unless one omits that in an introductory paragraph. It normally talks about the words that follow. It was interesting. I need to do a count again and share this with you. The number 124, which is the words from Bimei Matityahu, we'll look at them in a moment. The number 124, that is the gematria of the word Yochanan. But it's suggested that he added an extra word to make it 125, which then takes away the credits from him and shares it with his tribe, because the word 125 is the gematria of the word Kohanim. So in the bracha that celebrates miracles that happen to us all the time, what are ongoing miracles? Natural miracles, sunrise, sunset, the rainfalls, the winds, all the miracle occurrence, all the natural occurrences, of course, miraculous. And in Modim, we acknowledge that. And that's why this Al Hanissim prayer is said for two miracles that appeared completely natural. That is the miracle of Purim, the miracle of Hanukkah. And on both those occasions, it seems there was no divine interference. Purim more so even than Hanukkah, but it was just a war that we won. And you would say, well, yeah, so that, you would say, well, it was their superior strategy, and, they were very good and clever. Of course, we acknowledge it's a divine miracle, but it's kind of hidden in nature. And so those are the two festivals, as opposed to a festival like Pesach, where clearly the miracles were out of this world. Also Sukkot, those are the kind of other festivals we have, the miraculous. We have a separate prayer for all those festivals, Ya'aleh V'Yavo. But Al Hanisim, that prayer, which is inserted, as I said, in that bracha of the Amidah, that is specifically for miracles that kind of could hide in nature. And we talk about the fact that those miracles happened by Yamim Hahem Bizman Hazeh. Now, what does that mean? Yamim Hahem Bizman Hazeh. If before our forefathers, in those days at this season. So that would be the more literal meaning of the phrase. That miracles happened then, in those days, but at this time of year. Because we view our calendar not as, something happened a long time ago and it's past and doesn't recur, but we see the year as kind of a circle where events recur. When we get to these 8 days of the year, from the 25th of Kislev and the week of Hanukkah, it's like the Hanukkah energy is there again. We were living it again. So it happened then in those days, but at this time of year. And that energy and the miraculous energy is very much emanating today. Of course, we also understand this more figuratively as Bayamim Hahem, in those days, Bizman Hazeh, and at this time. That miracles didn't just happen then, but also happen now. And we want to capitalize on that energy of Hanukkah, which is a week of miracles, miraculous redemption, miraculous deliverance. We want, we're praying that miracles should happen now. And boy, this Hanukkah, we need miraculous intervention, more than ever. And then, having introduced this paragraph, we then start to talk about the actual story, the actual miracle of Hanukkah, which happened the days of Matityahu, son of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, who was Chashmonai, and his sons, and that Chashmonai is actually the name of the dynasty that they founded. So to put it in kind of a genealogy or a family tree that you would recognize, the father of Yochanan Kohen Gadol was Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik appears at the beginning of Pirkei Avot, and is referred to us, introduced to us as the remnant of the Anshe Knesset Agdolah. Anshe Knesset Agdolah were beginning of Second Temple era. It was the end of prophecy. There was a group of 120 great rabbis, most of them actually, being prophets, great sages. And Shimon HaTzadik was part of that group, but he was kind of the remnant, one of the last of that era. And with him kind of ended the era of prophecy. He had a son called Matityahu. Matityahu is going to be the leader of these Chashmonaim or these Maccabees, and he's going to lead them in that battle against the Greeks, which we're going to see further on in the prayer. It was a very necessary and important prayer. Was Matityahu Kohen Gadol? It would seem not. So the words Kohen Gadol actually refer to Yochanan. He was a Kohen Gadol. It doesn't refer to Matityahu. Although maybe the term Kohen Gadol sometimes is used, for a very important Kohen. In every congregation, you'll have, the senior Kohen that we refer to by the congregants as the Kohen HaGadol. It's not the real Kohen Gadol of the temple. So it could be that it was kind of an honorific title, which was being given to Matityahu, but he definitely wasn't the Kohen Gadol himself. His father, Yochanan, was a Kohen Gadol. Which, why tell us that there were Kohanim? Why is that important? Well, by right, one wonders, is it the function of the Kohanim as priests, as spiritual leaders, to wage a war? And I'd like to give you, three answers. First of all, it wasn't just a war for security or independence. It was a religious war. Because as we'll see, the Greeks were not trying to kill the Jews. The Greeks were trying to snuff out our faith. And that's the premise of the Kohanim. The Kohanim are the guardians of the faith, and the guardians of the Torah and of its study. And therefore, if that what was being attacked, it is their function. Secondly, the decree of the Greeks, one of their attacks was on the morality, on the purity of the Jewish people. The Talmud describes that it was a practice when a marriage took place, the bride, before she was allowed to, have her husband consummate the marriage with her, was taken and abused by one of a Greek nobleman. That was the practice, and that was the law, which kind of resonates with the current events, and the violation that we've suffered. And their Kohanim have to fight for, the purity of the people. There's another reason why we want to be told that they were Kohanim, because what they did was, in a sense, suicidal. I mean, for a small group of people, what were they? Matityahu and 5 sons. It's a kind of very small army facing the mighty, powerful Greeks. Halachically, that is questionable, whether you can kind of just, go on a suicide mission that has very little chance of success, unless you can rely on your merits and the fact that you are a tzaddik, and then you can get involved in that kind of suicidal mission. So it's relevant, and it's important for us to know that these were very righteous people. They're also known as the Maccabees. What does that word mean? One opinion is that it just stands for Matityahu, Kohen, Ben Yochanan. That's one opinion, and they were in that way honoring, grandfather or old man Yochanan, who was the inspiration. Another meaning of the word Maccabim is that it stands for the famous verse from the Song of the Sea, Mi Kamocha Bakelim Hashem, who is like you, God, amongst the mighty ones, and that also spells out the word Maccabee. Now, why was this, what do we call it nowadays, a just war? Why was this a just war? Why did this war have to take place? So the prayer carries on. And here, incidentally, is a picture of a cave that is believed to be the gravesite of Matityahu, Kohen Gadol, the father of the 5 sons. So what happens is the evil Greek kingdom rises up against our people. And what's the aim? Lashkicham Toratecha, to make them forget your Torah. And just a quick grammatical note, very relevant. It doesn't say Lashkicham HaTorah, to make them forget the Torah. The emphasis is here, make them forget not Torah, but your Torah. To make them forget that the Torah is one of divine origin, that it comes from God. The fact that the Torah existed and that it contained within it much wisdom, many teachings, values. Greeks have got no problem with that. Greeks worship culture. Greeks worship the intellectual pursuit, and Torah is an amazing teaching and an amazing intellectual and cultural book of teachings. What bothers them is that it's Torah Techa, it's your Torah. And that also comes out in the next phrase there, turn them away from Chukei Ratzonecha, the statutes of your will. You want to have customs, you want to have culture, you want to have traditions, and that's fine. But don't do them because they're divine. Do them because that's part of your culture, part of your custom, part of your heritage. But the Greeks are trying to uproot that, and the emphasis here is on the word statutes, Hebrew chukim. We know that in the body of mitzvot there are a large proportion called chukim, mitzvot that have no rational explanation. Those are the ones the Greeks couldn't stand. Those are the ones the Greeks wanted to uproot, because, for you to perform actions that you cannot explain, you're doing it just because you want a relationship with a deity, that didn't sit well with them. But the fact that there's traditions, the fact that there are customs and their practices, that was something that they respected and would not have necessarily interfered with. So that's what the Greeks set out to do, and this is what makes it not just a just war, but also one that the Kohanim feel obliged to fight, to preserve the purity of Torah and the purity of mitzvot, of the precepts. And against all odds, well, God is abundantly kind to us, and He's there for us at the time of distress. And we acknowledge that even though it didn't come across as totally natural war, and in which strategies and acumen prevailed, it was a divine war, and it was Hashem who fought our fights. It was Hashem who judged our grievances. It was Hashem who avenged the vengeance of the Jewish people. So, you are there, Hashem. We acknowledge that this was not just a totally natural occurrence, but that you got involved. That this is miraculous because you fought the fight. And in fighting the fight, what you facilitated is to deliver the mighty
David,
in the hands of the weak.
hello, David. Can I phone you back in about 15 minutes? I'm listening to a shiur. I'll come back to you. Okay, thanks. Cheers.
Just going to put everyone back on mute, because that is not going to interfere with the shiur. So, why is it relevant? Well, obviously, they were mighty. We were weak. They were powerful. We were few, and that's relevant because that explains the very, obvious nature, or divine nature, of the miracle. But beyond that, we also told further on that same prayer that they were tmeim biyad tahorim, that is, people who are impure, defiled people, in the hands of the undefiled, the hands of the pure, that they were wicked in the hands of the righteous, that they were sinners in the hands of diligent students of your Torah. Now, we understand, the miraculous nature of the fact that strong people are being overcome by weak people. We understand that few people overcoming many, that's of miraculous nature. But what are we being told over here? I mean, just because you're pure doesn't mean you're weak, and just because you're righteous doesn't mean that you've got a challenge overcoming the wicked, or because you study Torah, then you have a difficulty. It turns out that there were two parallel wars going on over here. There was a war against the Greek armies, the occupying force, controlling force at the time, who were trying to sever the relationship between the Jewish people and Hashem, not between our culture and our Torah that we discussed, but at the same time that the Greeks were working on snuffing out, controlling Jewish faith, at the same time there were also Jews, what they call Hellenists, Jews who are very much, moving without my permission, very much Hellenists that believed in adopting the Greek culture. And in that second part of the prayer that we just looked at, it's saying that there were two wars, and the second war was that of the impure being vanquished by the pure, the sinners being vanquished by the righteous, Torah scholars being able to overcome those who were not involved, not engaged in that way. Clearly, showing us the other side, the other aspect of that war going on at that very time. So what happened? Well, we won. So what do we do? So now we expect the prayer to move into, and then, well, here we go. Amazing victory, Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name. It's great deliverance for the Jewish people. Clear as day, Kayom Hazeh, same words that Yaakov used when he wanted Esav to sell him the birthright without any possible objections. So he said to him, sell it to me, Kayom Hazeh, clear like day, Kayom. And this is also redemption. Kayom Hazeh, like the sun shines bright in the day, and the day is undeniably a day, and not night. There was absolute evidence and proof. Then the sons enter into the Holy of Holies, Dvir Beitecha. They clean the temple. They purify the sanctuary, because this is what the Greeks had done: defiled the temple, and that's very relevant. They rendered the premises of the temple not physically dirty, that they've done as well, but impure, unfit for service. They did not destroy all the oils. If you look at the story in the Talmud where it talks about the miracle of the oil, it tells us that they defiled all the oils. What they wanted was to force the Jews to use oil that wasn't pure. Purity and impurity is part of that rubric of chukim, of laws that defy human understanding. It makes no sense that one bottle of oil, came into contact, was at somebody was at a cemetery, was at a funeral and so forth, becomes impure. And this other bottle of oil is perfectly okay. They look the same, they smell the same ingredients. There's something super rational going on here, something beyond the understanding. Oh, that doesn't work for the Greeks. So what they want to do is they want to defile the oil, and they want to force the Jews to light the holy menorah with impure oil. And here's a little secret. Halachically, that would have been permitted, because the rule is that if no pure oil is allowed, and that really runs contrary to the story of Hanukkah we've heard since nursery school days. They couldn't find any pure oil, they had to wait a week to get it. They wanted to wait a week to get it, because if the decree was that we don't understand purity and impurity, and for that reason we're going to defile the oil, even if halachically, if no pure oil is available, one may use impure oil, the Maccabees are not going to do that. They don't want to do that. The Kohanim are going to make sure that it is pure oil. And that's where the miracle of finding that one little jug is so important. While the fact that they went and they cleaned the temple out and made it pure again, purified it, then found a little bit of oil. That was kind of God's divine endorsement. The fact that the oil lasted for a week, that's further divine endorsement. No mention of any of that in the prayer of Al HaNisim, because that's not something we need to give thanks to Hashem forevermore. We thank Hashem for miracles that benefited us. What benefit did we have from the fact that the oil was, pure and lasted for 8 days? That's not the deliverance. So in the prayer of Modim, of thanksgiving to Hashem, we're going to mention that what's relevant to us, the victory of the war, and our right to practice as Jews freely, and there's not even a passing mention of the miracle. The Talmud it's found. Talmud was for scholars, and they would understand and relate very well to the idea that these Jews didn't want to use impure oil. We don't have it in this prayer of Al Nissim, which is really for the lay person. So, doesn't it mention about lighting a menorah in this prayer? Let's have a good look. So they lit the menorah. That's just a picture. But here we go. And they kindled lights in the courtyards of the sanctuary, and they designated these days as Hanukkah. But look carefully. This is not the miracle of the oil that we know so well from the story of Hanukkah. The menorah, pictured here, that menorah sits inside of the sanctuary. The temple consisted of, a room, an enclosed sanctuary, and then outside of that there was the courtyard. The menorah didn't sit in the courtyard. The menorah sat in the inside, and nobody really saw it. It was lit inside. So, it's interesting that in the middle of Hanukkah, with the candles burning, it was a very private and quiet thing that happened inside of an enclosed building. The candles that are being lit over here, the Chatrot Kodesh, are they in the courtyards of the sanctuary? Those are just candles of celebration, of rejoicing that were lit, and have little to do with the menorah, the pure oil. In fact, nothing to do with it at all. And we end up with 8 days of Hanukkah to thank and to praise Hashem's great name. And that's how we end up with this festival of Hanukkah. Clearly, the energy that begins tomorrow night is one of miraculous deliverance, of the few against the many, which is the story of our country that has been able to, surrounded by millions and millions of hostile people, survive against all odds. And we hope that this week of Hanukkah is going to be a springboard for miracles that are going to be observed not just historically by Yamim Hahem, but please God, Bizman Hazeh, we merit full, complete deliverance this year, Hanukkah.